I am Almira, 67 years old, and retired after 30 years as a nurse in Chicago. My only daughter, Cassandra, 32, was always my world. We had our issues, but nothing prepared me for the email that popped up on my screen last month. Her Paris wedding, the one I had paid $15,000 toward, suddenly did not include me. Her exact words still burn. If you want to be a part of it, you can watch through the Google Earth window, LOL. I stared at those words for hours. Where are you watching from today? If you hit subscribe and like, I will tell you exactly what I did that had my daughter frantically calling me the next morning. When Cassandra was born, her father walked out 3 months later. Just disappeared. No child support, no visits, nothing. I was 28 and suddenly a single mother with hospital bills and a mortgage. I had my nursing degree but was still early in my career. The only option was to work. And work I did. Double shifts at Northwestern Memorial overtime whenever possible, and weekend home care jobs for extra cash. My mother helped watch Cassandra when she could, but she had her own health problems. Despite the financial strain, I was determined to give Cassandra everything. I scrimped on myself, but never on her. Private school from kindergarten through high school, dance lessons from age 4, summer camps in Wisconsin. Piano lessons she quit after 6 months. The expensive jeans all her friends had. I wanted her to never feel the lack of having just one parent. Looking back, I see the first signs of trouble when Cassandra was around 12. Her teacher called me in for a conference about her behavior. "Cassandra has an entitlement issue," Mrs. Donovan said gently. "She expects special treatment and becomes very upset when she has to follow the same rules as everyone else." I defended my daughter, blamed it on her absent father promised to talk to her. Our talk did not go well. Cassandra rolled her eyes, said Mrs. Donovan was just jealous of her, and asked for money for a school trip in the same conversation. I gave her the money. By high school, the pattern was clear. Cassandra would be sweet and attentive when she needed something cold and distant when she did not. I told myself it was normal teenage behavior. All my friends with teenagers complained about the same thing. The difference was that their kids eventually grew out of it. Cassandra never did. She got into Northwestern University, my alma mater. I was so proud. The tuition nearly broke me, but I took out a second mortgage. "This is your future," I told her. "Education is the one thing nobody can take from you." Cassandra majored in fashion merchandising and business. She joined a sorority where she was always the one with less money than the others. I sent care packages and extra spending money whenever I could. After graduation, she moved to New York. I helped with the security deposit on her first apartment in Brooklyn, a tiny place she shared with 2 other girls. This is the last big expense I promised myself. She has her degree now. She can make her own way. But the financial requests never stopped. A loan for work clothes, money for a course in digital marketing, help with rent when a roommate moved out unexpectedly. Each time I told myself it was the last time. Each time I sent the money. Our relationship became increasingly transactional. She would call, we would chat for 10 minutes about her job at a fashion startup, and then would come the real reason for the call. A need, a request, a financial emergency that was never really an emergency. I saw her twice a year. She would come home for Christmas, and I would visit New York in the summer. During these visits, Cassandra was the daughter I remembered, warm, funny, full of stories. We would shop and have lunch, and pretend our relationship was normal. Then I would go home, and the cycle would begin again. Calls that came only with requests. 3 years ago, Cassandra met James at a fashion industry event in Manhattan. He was French, worked for a luxury brand, came from money. Their relationship moved quickly. Within 6 months, she called to tell me they were moving in together. Within a year, they were engaged. "Mom," he proposed. Her voice was giddy with excitement. "We are going to have the wedding in Paris. His family has connections there. It is going to be amazing." I was truly happy for her. James seemed kind in the few video calls I had been part of. He had a good job, treated her well, and they seemed to share the same interests and values. When she mentioned Paris, my heart sank a little. I had never been to Europe. The cost of traveling there would be significant, but this was my only daughter, and I would find a way. "That sounds wonderful, honey," I said. "I will start saving for the trip right away." About that, Cassandra said, her voice shifting slightly. "Weddings in Paris are really expensive. We might need some help with the costs." And there it was. The real reason for the call. "How much are you thinking?" I asked, already mentally reviewing my retirement savings. "Maybe 15,000. James' family is covering most of it, but there are some things we want that are not in their budget." $15,000. More than 3 months of my retirement income. But I agreed. Of course I agreed. This was my daughter's wedding. I wanted it to be perfect. Looking back, I should have noticed the red flags. Cassandra never asked what I would wear. Never discussed whether I would bring a +1. Never talked about my role in the ceremony. When I brought these things up, she was vague. "We will figure all that out later, Mom. We are still in the early planning stages." I sent the first installment of $5,000 the next week, another $5,000 3 months later, the final $5,000 just last month. Each time Cassandra was effusive in her thanks. She sent photos of venues, flower arrangements, menu options. I felt included. I felt needed. I felt like a mother helping her daughter create the perfect wedding day. What I did not feel was wanted, and as the wedding date approached, that feeling only grew stronger. The first concrete sign that something was wrong came 6 months before the wedding. Cassandra posted photos on Instagram of a bridesmaid proposal event at a rooftop bar in New York. 6 smiling young women holding gift bags with "bridesmaid" written in gold script. She had never mentioned this event to me. When I called to ask about it, she said it had been last minute. "Just something James' sister put together," she explained. "Nothing important." 4 months before the wedding, Cassandra mentioned they had secured the perfect venue, a historic building near the Eiffel Tower. "Thanks to your contribution," she said. "The deposit was exactly what you sent." I asked about booking my flight and hotel. "Oh, do not worry about that yet," she said. "We are working on a block of rooms for family. I will let you know." 3 months before the wedding, Cassandra stopped answering my calls regularly. She would text back hours later, "Sorry, super busy with wedding stuff. We'll call soon." But the calls became shorter, less frequent. 2 months before the wedding, I still had no information about my accommodations, my role in the ceremony, or even the exact date. I had a general time frame, early June, but no specific day. When I pressed Cassandra, she became irritated. "Mom, planning a destination wedding is really stressful. I will send you all the details soon, I promise." 1 month before the wedding, I called Lindsay, Cassandra's maid of honor. Lindsay and I had always gotten along well. She had spent many weekends at our house during high school. "Lindsay, I hate to bother you, but I am concerned about the wedding plans. Cassandra has been so busy, and I still do not have my flight information or hotel details." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Jenkins, I do not know how to say this, but are you sure you are supposed to be there? Cassandra told us all that you could not make it, that you were having health issues and could not travel." My blood ran cold. Health issues. I am perfectly healthy. I have been waiting for details about my travel arrangements. Another pause. This is awkward, but there is a bachelorette weekend in 2 weeks in the Hamptons. Cassandra said you knew all about it. I had heard nothing about a bachelorette weekend. Nothing at all. After hanging up with Lindsay, I sat in my kitchen feeling numb. Why would Cassandra lie about my health? Why would she hide these events from me? I sent her a text. We need to talk about the wedding. Please call me as soon as you can. 3 days passed. No response. I checked social media. Cassandra had posted about wedding dress fittings, about tastings with the caterer, about meetings with the florist, all events I knew nothing about. In the comments, friends expressed excitement about seeing her in Paris. Her future mother-in-law posted about how thrilled they were to host everyone. Everyone except me, apparently. Finally, 4 weeks before the wedding date, the email arrived. I was at home drinking my morning coffee when the notification popped up on my phone from Cassandra's subject line about the wedding. My hands shook as I opened it. Maybe this would finally contain my travel information. Maybe there had been some misunderstanding. The email was 3 paragraphs long. I read it once, twice, 3 times, unable to process the words. Mom, I have been trying to find the right way to tell you this. After a lot of thought and discussion with James and his family, we have decided it would be best if you did not attend the wedding in person. There are many factors that went into this decision, including the intimate nature of the venue and some concerns about potential family dynamics. I know you contributed financially to the wedding, which we greatly appreciate. That money has helped create what will be a magical day. If you want to be a part of it, you can watch through the Google Earth window, LOL. I hope you understand and respect our decision. We can celebrate together when we return to the States. Love, Cassandra. I stared at the screen until it went black. Then I sat in my kitchen, the coffee growing cold beside me, for I do not know how long. Minutes. Hours. The words Google Earth window LOL playing on repeat in my mind. I tried calling her. No answer. I tried again, straight to voicemail. I sent a text. Please call me. Nothing. That night, I could not sleep. I scrolled through social media, looking for clues. On the page of James' sister Marie, I found a post from 2 months earlier family meeting to finalize Paris wedding guest list, keeping it intimate and drama-free. In the comments, someone had written, "Good call on the intimate list. Some family members just bring too much negativity." Marie had replied with a winking emoji. Was that about me? Had I been discussed and dismissed as a source of negativity and drama by people who had never even met me? The next day I called Cassandra's phone every hour. No response. I emailed her, "Please explain what is going on. I do not understand." No response. Finally, I reached out to an old friend of Cassandra's from high school, who I knew was invited to the wedding. She was reluctant to talk, but finally admitted that everyone in their friend group knew I was not invited. Cassandra said, "You two have a complicated relationship," she explained uncomfortably. She said you can be difficult, and she wanted her wedding day to be stress-free. Difficult. I had worked double shifts for years to give her everything. I had never remarried because potential partners found my devotion to my daughter excessive. I had sent her $15,000 money from my retirement fund for a wedding I was now uninvited to. And I was the difficult one. That evening, as I was going through old photo albums in a fog of disbelief, my phone pinged with a notification. Cassandra had posted a new photo on Instagram. She was at the airport, posed with her bridesmaids, captioned, "Paris-bound wedding week begins now." 2 days early. She had left 2 days before she had told me the trip would begin. Another lie. I closed the photo albums and sat in my silent house, surrounded by memories of a daughter who had decided I was not worth including in the most important day of her life. A daughter who thought a joke about Google Earth was an appropriate way to uninvite her mother from her wedding. A wedding I had helped pay for. That night was the worst of my life. Worse than when Cassandra's father left. Worse than when my own mother died. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I could barely breathe through it. I had a panic attack around midnight. Sitting on my bathroom floor gasping for air, convinced I was having a heart attack. The pain in my chest was physical, radiating down my left arm. As a nurse, I recognized the symptoms but could not control them. My vision tunneled my fingers, tingled, and I genuinely believed I might die there on the cold tile floor. The attack passed eventually, leaving me exhausted and hollow. I crawled to bed but did not sleep. How could I sleep? My mind replayed every interaction with Cassandra over the past year, looking for signs I had missed. There were so many. Her vagueness about dates, her reluctance to discuss my travel plans, the way she changed the subject whenever I mentioned my role in the ceremony. At 3 a.m, I got up and went to my home office. I found the bank statements showing the transfers to Cassandra. 3 payments of $5,000 each. Descriptions: wedding gift 1, wedding gift 2, wedding gift 3. $15,000 total. Money I had planned to use for a kitchen renovation. Money that represented hundreds of hours of caring for sick patients. I pulled out the shoebox where I kept Cassandra's childhood mementos. Mother's Day cards with wobbly handwriting, school photos, a dried corsage from her prom, a note she had written me when she was 10. "You are the best mom in the world. I love you more than anybody." The tears came then, heavy, wrenching sobs that seemed to tear something loose inside me. I cried for the little girl who had loved me. I cried for the woman who had grown to see me as an inconvenience. I cried for myself for the years of sacrifice that had led to this moment of utter rejection. When morning came, I called my sister Margaret. She lived in Michigan, a 3-hour drive away. We spoke weekly, but were not exceptionally close. Still, she was the only person I could think to call. "Maggie," I said, when she answered, my voice raw from crying. "Cassandra uninvited me from her wedding. By email, she suggested I watch through Google Earth." She did what Margaret's voice rose in disbelief. I explained everything. The money, the lies, the gradual distancing, followed by the abrupt dismissal. That ungrateful little. Margaret rarely cursed, but she made an exception now. "After everything you have done for her, after you helped pay for this wedding, Almira, this is beyond unacceptable." "I know," I whispered. "I do not know what to do. I cannot eat. I cannot sleep. I keep thinking there must be some explanation, but she will not talk to me." "There is no explanation that would make this okay," Margaret said firmly. "None. You need to stand up for yourself. Call her out publicly. Post about this on Facebook. Let everyone know what she has done." The thought made me cringe. I cannot do that. She is still my daughter. A daughter who has treated you abominably. Almira, you have always put Cassandra first. Always. And look where it has gotten you. It is time to put yourself first, for once. Put myself first. The concept was so foreign, it might as well have been in another language. I had defined myself as Cassandra's mother for so long, I was not sure who I was without that role. After talking to Margaret, I tried to eat something but had no appetite. I drank tea and stared out my kitchen window at the spring flowers blooming in my small garden. Daffodils I had planted last fall before I knew what this spring would bring. The sense of worthlessness was overwhelming. If my own daughter, the person I had centered my life around, could discard me so easily, what value did I have? What had been the point of all those sacrifices, all those extra shifts, all those lonely nights? I returned to the email, rereading it for perhaps the 20th time. The casual cruelty of it stunned me anew. Watch through the Google Earth window, LOL, as if my exclusion was amusing, as if my desire to see my only child get married was a joke. More painful was the realization that Cassandra and James had discussed this with his family. They had all sat around perhaps at that family meeting referenced on social media and decided I was not worthy of inclusion. People who had never met me had judged me unworthy. I thought about the money again. $15,000. Clearly my financial contribution was valued, but my presence was not. I was good enough to help pay, but not good enough to attend. In the afternoon, I drove to the lake and sat watching the water. Lake Michigan had always calmed me during difficult times. The vastness of it, the constancy of the waves. But today, even the lake could not touch the depth of my pain. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. "Have you decided what to do?" What to do? What could I do? The wedding was happening with or without me. My presence was unwanted, my feelings disregarded, my financial contribution spent. I felt smaller than I had ever felt in my life. Invisible, unimportant. A footnote in my own daughter's life story. That evening I hit rock bottom. Sitting alone in my living room, surrounded by photos of Cassandra at various ages, I considered my options. I could fly to Paris anyway, crash the wedding, create a scene. I could publicly shame Cassandra online, as Margaret had suggested. I could call James' family and plead my case. All of these options felt wrong. All of them would only reinforce whatever negative image Cassandra had created of me. All of them would center her, prioritize her, continue the pattern of my life, revolving around her needs and wants. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider a different approach. What if just this once I put myself first? What would that even look like? The question lingered as I finally fell into an exhausted sleep around midnight, emotionally drained, but with the smallest seed of a new thought taking root. I woke the next morning with surprising clarity. Something had shifted during those few hours of sleep. The devastation was still there, a heavy weight in my chest, but alongside it was something new, a quiet determination, a sense that I had reached a crossroads, and only I could decide which path to take. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with a notebook. At the top of the page I wrote a question: what do I want? Such a simple question. But I realized I had rarely asked it of myself. My wants had always been secondary to Cassandra's needs, to my patient's needs, to everyone else's needs. I stared at the question for a long time. Then I began to write. I want respect. I want acknowledgement of my worth. I want to be treated with basic human dignity. I want to stop enabling behavior that hurts me. I want to reclaim my power. I want to live with self-respect. The list grew longer. With each item, I felt a little stronger, a little more centered in myself rather than in my relationship with Cassandra. At 9:30, I called my friend Judith. We had been colleagues at the hospital for 20 years before both retiring. Unlike many of my friends who were primarily mothers talking about their children, Judith and I connected on many levels. She had never had children and had always provided a different perspective on my relationship with Cassandra. Judith the first said when she answered, "I need some perspective. Something terrible has happened." I told her everything, trying to stick to the facts rather than collapse into emotion again. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Finally, Judith spoke. "Almira, I am going to ask you something, and I want you to really think before you answer. If Cassandra were not your daughter, if she were just someone you knew, would you maintain a relationship with a person who treated you this way?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "No," I said after a moment. "I would not." "Then why do you accept it from your daughter?" "Because she is my daughter. Because I love her." "Love should not be a one-way street," Judith said gently. "And it should not require you to sacrifice your dignity." We talked for nearly an hour. Judith did not tell me what to do, but she asked questions that helped me clarify my own thoughts. By the end of the call, I had the beginnings of a plan. First, I called my bank. I needed to understand exactly how much money I had sent Cassandra for the wedding and whether any of it could be recovered. The customer service representative was sympathetic, but not hopeful. "The transfers were gifts," she explained. "Legally, you cannot reclaim a gift." Next, I called my accountant, Harold, who had been handling my taxes since my divorce. "Harold, I need advice about financial boundaries with my adult child." Harold, ever practical, asked direct questions about my retirement savings, my monthly income, and my future plans. "Almira," he said bluntly, "you cannot afford to be your daughter's ATM. The numbers simply do not work." After those calls, I sat down at my computer. I researched Paris, briefly looking at the area where I knew the wedding venue was located. Then I opened a new email and composed a response to Cassandra. I kept it short, dignified, giving no hint of the turmoil inside me. "Sure. Enjoy your big day." 5 words. No accusations, no pleading, no anger, visible on the surface. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I blocked her number on my phone. The action was so contrary to everything I had ever done as a mother that my hand shook as I did it. For 32 years I had been available to Cassandra day and night. I had never been unreachable. I had never put a boundary in place and held it firm. But something had broken inside me with that email, something that could not be repaired with apologies or explanations. A fundamental trust had been violated, and I knew instinctively that healing, if it was possible at all, would require a complete reset of our relationship. That afternoon, I did something I had not done in years. I went shopping for myself. Not bargain hunting, not looking for the least expensive option, but actually shopping for quality items that made me feel good. I bought a new outfit, spending more than I typically would. I made an appointment for a haircut at a salon I had always considered too expensive. I purchased a comfortable pair of walking shoes and a small suitcase. When the salesperson asked if I was planning a trip, I surprised myself by saying yes. "I am going to the Grand Canyon," I said, the decision crystallizing as the words left my mouth. "It has been on my bucket list for decades." That evening I researched Grand Canyon tours. I found one that coincided with Cassandra's wedding dates, a 5-day guided hiking experience, with accommodations at a lodge on the rim. It was expensive, more than I would normally spend on myself, but I had $15,000 that was no longer going toward a Paris wedding. I booked the tour, a flight to Arizona, and the lodge. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of something positive. Not happiness exactly, but perhaps anticipation. A sense of reclaiming something that had been lost. Before bed, I made one more appointment that felt significant. a consultation with a therapist who specialized in family estrangement. The earliest available slot was 3 weeks away, but that was okay. I was taking steps, moving forward, rather than drowning in grief. As I prepared for bed that night, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The face that looked back was tired with puffy eyes from crying, but there was something else there too, a determination that had not been present before. A woman beginning to emerge from decades of defining herself primarily as someone's mother. I slept better that night than I had since receiving the email. Not well, but better. When I woke the next morning, I felt ready for whatever came next. The morning after, I sent my brief reply to Cassandra. My phone exploded with notifications. Though I had blocked her number, she had found other ways to reach me. Emails, Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, even LinkedIn messages, a platform I rarely used. I did not read them. Not yet. I was not ready. Instead, I focused on implementing my plan. Step by step, I was reclaiming control of my life and this situation. I went to my cell phone provider and bought a new phone with a new number. I explained to the salesperson that I needed to keep my old phone active for a while, but wanted to transition to the new one. Going through a difficult personal situation, I explained vaguely. The young woman nodded sympathetically and set everything up for me. Your old phone will still receive calls and messages, she explained, but you can choose when to check it. Your new phone is entirely separate. This small act of creating technological distance felt enormously empowering. For the first time in decades, I was not instantly available to Cassandra. I was creating space for myself. Next, I went to my bank and opened a new account. I transferred a portion of my savings into it, money that would be exclusively for my own needs and wants. No emergency withdrawals for Cassandra's crises. No impulsive transfers when she called with urgency in her voice. I am learning about financial boundaries, I told the bank manager, who nodded approvingly. Many of our older clients struggle with this, she said. Adult children can drain retirement savings quickly if boundaries are not established. In the afternoon, I met with an attorney who specialized in estate planning. I had a simple will drawn up years ago, but I wanted to review it and make some changes. Not drastic changes, nothing vindictive, but a restructuring that reflected my new understanding of my relationship with my daughter. I would like to set up a trust, I explained to the attorney. Something that would provide for my daughter, but with conditions and oversight. We discussed options, and I left with a clearer understanding of how to protect my assets, while still providing for Cassandra in the event of my death. It was a difficult conversation, but a necessary one. That evening, I finally looked at my old phone. There were 27 missed calls from Cassandra. 15 text messages, 5 voicemails, multiple messages on every social media platform. I took a deep breath and began reading the texts first. Mom, did you get my email about the wedding? Mom, why aren't you responding? Are you okay? I'm getting worried. Mom, please call me back. I don't understand why you're ignoring me. This is exactly why we decided it would be better if you weren't at the wedding. You're being so dramatic right now. Mom, seriously, call me back. The silent treatment is really immature. Fine, be that way. Mom, I'm really getting concerned. Please just let me know you're okay. If you don't respond, I'm going to have to call the police for a welfare check. Mom, I'm sorry if the email upset you. Can we please talk? This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Please call me back. The progression from concern to anger to manipulation to pleading was so predictable it would have been funny if it were not so painful. This was our dynamic laid bare. Cassandra pushing and pulling, expecting me to respond immediately to her needs while dismissing mine entirely. The voicemails followed the same pattern. The first few were brief, just asking me to call. The middle ones were angry, accusing me of being difficult and dramatic. The final ones were tearful, with Cassandra saying she was worried about me and did not understand why I was not responding. Not once did she acknowledge that her email might have been hurtful. Not once did she reconsider her decision to exclude me from the wedding. Her concern was entirely about why I was not responding to her on her timeline in the way she expected. I did not call her back. Instead, I sent a single text from my old phone: "I am fine. Taking some time for myself. Will be in touch when I am ready." Then I turned the old phone off and put it in a drawer. On my new phone, I posted a simple update to Facebook, visible only to my friends, not to Cassandra: taking a much-needed vacation to the Grand Canyon next month. Looking forward to new adventures. The responses were immediate and positive. Friends I had not connected with in months commented with excitement. A few asked if I would be missing Cassandra's wedding. I did not respond to those questions. Over the next few days, I continued preparing for my trip. I bought hiking clothes, a good hat, sunscreen. I read books about the Grand Canyon and joined online forums for solo travelers over 60. I found a community of women my age who traveled alone, some by choice, others by circumstance. Their stories inspired me. A week after my brief response to Cassandra's email, my doorbell rang. It was a local police officer performing a welfare check. "We received a call from your daughter in New York," he explained. "She says she has not been able to reach you and is concerned." I invited him in, offered him coffee, and calmly explained the situation. "My daughter and I are having a disagreement," I said. "I have texted her to let her know I am fine, but am taking some time for myself. As you can see, I am perfectly well." The officer was understanding. "Family conflicts can be difficult," he said. "I will report back that you are safe and well." After he left, I felt a mix of emotions: anger that Cassandra had escalated to this level, embarrassment at having the police at my door, but also, strangely, a sense of validation. My boundary setting was working. It was disrupting the pattern so effectively that Cassandra had called the authorities. I sent another brief text from my old phone: "Please do not send police to my home again. I have told you I am fine. I will contact you when I am ready." Then I returned to my preparations. Each day that passed, I felt a little stronger, a little more certain of my path forward. The pain was still there, but it was no longer consuming me. I was building something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. 2 weeks before Cassandra's wedding, I received a certified letter from her. I recognized her handwriting on the envelope. I placed it unopened in the same drawer as my old phone. I was not ready to read whatever it contained. Perhaps I would read it after my trip. Perhaps not. For the first time, I was allowing myself to prioritize my own emotional well-being over her need for communication on her terms. In that same period, I received calls from 2 of Cassandra's bridesmaids and 1 from James's sister, Marie. I did not answer any of them. Whatever narrative Cassandra was sharing about our situation, I was not interested in engaging with it through proxy conversations. 3 days before my departure for Arizona, which was also 3 days before Cassandra's wedding, I went to my regular coffee shop and ran into my neighbor Susan. We were friendly, but not close, and she did not know about the situation with Cassandra. "Almira," she greeted me warmly. "Are you all packed for Paris? It must be so exciting, your daughter getting married in such a romantic city." I realized in that moment that I had a choice. I could share the painful truth, invite sympathy, paint Cassandra as the villain, or I could simply redirect. Actually, I am heading to the Grand Canyon, I said with a genuine smile. It has been on my bucket list for years, and I finally decided to make it happen. Oh, how wonderful, Susan said. My husband and I went last year. You will love it. But wait, what about the wedding? Plans change, I said simply. But the Grand Canyon has been there for millions of years, and I think it is time I saw it. Susan looked confused, but did not press. We chatted about hiking trails and canyon views and then parted ways. As I walked home, I realized something important. I did not owe anyone an explanation. Not Susan, not Cassandra's bridesmaids, not even Cassandra herself. My life was my own, and I was reclaiming it one decision at a time. The day before my trip, I cleaned my house, thoroughly arranged for a neighbor to collect my mail, and packed my new suitcase. I felt ready not just for the trip, but for whatever came next in my life. As I locked my front door the next morning, waiting for the taxi to the airport, I glanced at my phone one last time. No messages on my new number, which only a few close friends had. Whatever chaos was unfolding in New York or Paris, it was separate from me now. I had created a boundary, and I was maintaining it. The taxi arrived, and I stepped into it with a sense of anticipation I had not felt in years. "Airport, please," I said to the driver. "I have a plane to catch." The day of Cassandra's wedding dawned clear and beautiful at the Grand Canyon. I woke early in my lodge room, drawn to the window by the changing colors of the canyon as the sun rose. Pinks and golds and deep purples illuminated the vast expanse before me. It was more breathtaking than any photo could capture. For a moment I thought of Paris. It would be afternoon there now. Cassandra would be getting ready, surrounded by her bridesmaids. There would be champagne and laughter, nervous excitement, and last-minute adjustments to her dress. I felt a pang of sadness, not for missing the wedding, but for the relationship that should have been. In a healthier mother-daughter dynamic, I would have been there helping her prepare, perhaps sharing wisdom about marriage, or simply holding her hand when nerves struck. But I pushed the thought away. Today was not about what might have been. It was about what was. And what was at this moment was me standing at the edge of one of the natural wonders of the world, ready to begin an adventure I had postponed for decades. I dressed in my new hiking clothes and joined my tour group for breakfast. There were 12 of us, mostly retirees like myself, with a guide in his 30s who had been leading canyon hikes for 10 years. Over eggs and coffee, we introduced ourselves and shared what had brought us to the Grand Canyon. When it was my turn, I said, simply, "I am Almira from Chicago. I have wanted to see the Grand Canyon since I was a girl, and I finally decided to stop waiting for the perfect time." No mention of Cassandra. No mention of the wedding. This trip was about me, not about escaping her rejection. We set out on our first hike around 8:30, taking a moderate trail that wound along the south rim. The guide, Mark, was knowledgeable about the geology and history of the canyon, stopping frequently to point out features and share stories. I found myself fully engaged, asking questions, taking photos with my new camera. Around noon, as we stopped for a picnic lunch at a scenic overlook, I realized something I had not thought about Cassandra or the wedding for over 2 hours. It was the longest stretch of mental peace I had experienced since receiving her email. After lunch, as the group continued along the trail, I checked my new phone. 3 texts from Margaret, who knew about my trip and supported my decision. "Thinking of you today. Hope the canyon is beautiful," Judith called. She sends her love. "Let me know you are safe when you can." I sent a quick response with a photo of the canyon. Nothing more was needed. I deliberately did not check my old phone, which was in my hotel room safe. Whatever was happening in Paris would still be happening whether I looked or not. For today, at least, I wanted to remain present in my own experience. The afternoon hike was more challenging, taking us down into the canyon itself. The descent was hard on my knees but exhilarating. Each turn in the path revealed new vistas, new colors, new perspectives on the massive formation. I felt small in the best possible way, a tiny speck in the vast timeline of the Earth. By late afternoon, as we made our way back up to the rim, I was physically exhausted but mentally refreshed. The group returned to the lodge for dinner, and I enjoyed the camaraderie of new acquaintances sharing stories over good food. After dinner, sitting on the patio of the lodge with a glass of wine, watching the sunset transform the canyon once again, I finally allowed myself to check my old phone. It was flooded with notifications, texts, calls, emails, social media messages, not just from Cassandra, but from her friends, from James's family, even from casual acquaintances who had somehow been drawn into the drama. I took a deep breath and began reading. Cassandra had sent dozens of increasingly frantic messages. The progression told a story: initial anger at my silence, escalating concern when the police welfare check confirmed I was fine, but still not responding confusion when she learned I had gone to the Grand Canyon, and finally panic on the morning of her wedding, when she realized I truly would not be available for any last-minute requests. The most recent message sent just 3 hours earlier was telling Mom the vendor for the flowers is demanding final payment before delivery. I thought it was covered, but apparently there's a balance due. Can you please transfer $1,800 immediately? It's an emergency. So, there it was. The real emergency. Not concern for my well-being, not regret for excluding me, a financial demand expected to be met instantly regardless of the emotional context. I scrolled through other messages, one from Lindsay, the maid of honor, Mrs. Jenkins. I don't know what's going on between you and Cassandra, but she's really upset today. Maybe you could just call her. One from Marie James's sister, Almira. I'm confused. Cassandra told us you couldn't attend the wedding due to health issues, but now I hear you're hiking the Grand Canyon. There seems to be some miscommunication. And most surprisingly, one from James himself, Almira. I've just learned about the email Cassandra sent you. I had no idea she had uninvited you from our wedding. This was not a joint decision. I'm deeply sorry and embarrassed. I'm trying to understand what happened, but wanted you to know I had no part in this. That last message gave me pause. Had Cassandra acted alone? Had she lied to James about my exclusion the same way she had lied to others about my supposed health issues? I pondered this as I watched the final light fade from the canyon. The situation was more complex than I had realized, but one thing remained clear. I had made the right decision in creating distance. The patterns were too entrenched, the dynamics too unhealthy for any quick resolution. I did not respond to any of the messages. Instead, I turned the old phone off again and returned my attention to the breathtaking view before me. Later that evening, as I prepared for bed, my new phone pinged with a text from Margaret too. Just saw on Facebook that there was some kind of disaster at the wedding. Flowers never showed up. Cassandra apparently had a meltdown. Thought you should know. I was not on social media enough to see these updates myself, and I had deliberately not connected with Cassandra's friends on my new accounts. But Margaret, always one to keep tabs on family drama, was providing a window into events in Paris. I thanked her for the information but did not ask for details. Whatever was unfolding at the wedding was no longer my concern. I had paid my $15,000. I had been deemed unworthy of attendance. The consequences of those decisions belonged to Cassandra, not to me. I slept deeply that night, lulled by physical tiredness and the quiet of the canyon. The next morning brought another beautiful sunrise and another day of exploration. It was mid-afternoon on day 2 of my trip when the text from Margaret came that finally made me laugh out loud. "Oh my God! James's parents found out Cassandra uninvited you after you paid for part of the wedding. They are livid. Apparently, there was a huge scene at the reception. James's mother called you the invisible guest of honor in her speech and raised a toast to you. Cassandra is furious. This is better than a soap opera." I could picture it clearly, the elegant Parisian venue, the confused guests, the family tension erupting at what should have been a joyous celebration. Part of me felt sorry for Cassandra facing such public embarrassment on her wedding day, but a larger part recognized the natural consequences of her actions unfolding exactly as they should. That evening I received an email from James's mother, Elizabeth, whom I had never met. She had apparently gotten my email address from Cassandra's phone. "Dear Almira, I want to extend my sincere apologies for the situation regarding our children's wedding. Had we known you were deliberately excluded after making a significant financial contribution, we would have intervened. Our family values honesty and respect, especially toward parents. I hope we might meet someday under better circumstances. Elizabeth Dumont." I responded briefly, thanking her for reaching out but not engaging with the drama. "Thank you for your kind words, Elizabeth. I wish James and Cassandra happiness in their marriage. I am currently traveling, but would be open to meeting when circumstances allow." The remaining days of my Grand Canyon adventure passed in a blur of beautiful hikes, interesting conversations with my fellow travelers, and peaceful evenings watching the play of light on ancient rock formations. With each passing day, I felt more centered, more certain of my worth, independent of my role as Cassandra's mother. On my final evening at the canyon, I sat alone on a quiet overlook, watching the stars emerge in the vast desert sky. My phone had been silent for hours, a welcome respite from the constant updates about wedding drama. In this moment of tranquility, I realized something important. I had experienced more peace in these 5 days away than in the previous 5 years of my relationship with Cassandra. It was a sobering realization, but also a liberating one. The path forward was becoming clearer, not despite the distance I had created, but because of it. That night I slept more soundly than I had in months, perhaps years. No anxiety dreams, no middle-of-the-night worry sessions, just deep, restful sleep in preparation for my journey home the next day. When I returned to Chicago, my house felt different. Not physically changed, but altered in some indefinable way. Perhaps it was me who had changed. 5 days at the Grand Canyon, 5 days of prioritizing my own experience, had shifted something fundamental in my perspective. I unpacked, methodically laundered my hiking clothes, and downloaded my photos to my computer. Only after these tasks were complete did I check my old phone again. The volume of messages had decreased. There were still texts and voicemails from Cassandra, but fewer and with a different tone. The frantic demands had given way to something that approximated reflection. "Mom, I do not know if you are reading these, but I want you to know the wedding was beautiful. I wish you could have been there. Mom, James' parents are upset about what happened. They think I was wrong to exclude you. Maybe they are right. I do not know anymore. Mom, please call me when you get back from your trip. We need to talk." I set the phone aside without responding. I was not ready yet. The wound was still too fresh, the patterns too easily reestablished. 3 days after my return, I had my first appointment with Dr. Levine, the therapist specializing in family estrangement. Her office was warm and unpretentious, with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. "Tell me what brings you here," she said, after we had exchanged introductions. I told her everything from Cassandra's childhood to the wedding email to my Grand Canyon trip. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "What do you want from your relationship with Cassandra going forward?" she asked when I had finished. It was the question I had been asking myself since the Grand Canyon. "I want a relationship based on mutual respect," I said slowly. "I want acknowledgement of my worth beyond what I can provide financially. I want honesty. I want the option to say no without fear of rejection." Dr. Levine nodded. "Those are all reasonable wants. The question is whether Cassandra is capable of meeting them. And if she is not, then you decide what kind of limited relationship you can have, while maintaining your own well-being, or whether you need a period of no contact to heal." We talked for the full hour, exploring patterns and possibilities. I left with no definitive answers, but a stronger sense of my own agency in the situation. I had choices. I had not had choices, or had not recognized them for most of my adult life. A week after my return, a letter arrived from Paris. It was from James, handwritten on heavy stationery. "Dear Almira," it began, "I want to personally apologize for the painful situation surrounding our wedding. I was shocked to learn that Cassandra had uninvited you, especially after your generous financial contribution. She had told me you were unable to attend due to health concerns, and I accepted this without question, which I now regret. My parents were equally disturbed when the truth came to light during our reception. While I love Cassandra deeply, I do not condone her actions in this matter. I hope that eventually reconciliation might be possible between you. If there is ever anything I can do to facilitate this, please let me know. With sincere regrets, James Dumont." The letter was unexpected but somehow validating. James seemed genuine in his concern and embarrassment. I appreciated that he had taken the time to write personally, rather than joining Cassandra in her digital barrage of messages. I wrote back, keeping my response brief but warm. I thanked him for reaching out, assured him I held no ill will toward him, and expressed my hope that their marriage would be happy. I made no promises about reconciliation with Cassandra, but left the door open to future communication with him. 2 weeks after my return, I finally responded to one of Cassandra's texts. "I am back from my trip. I am still processing what happened and am not ready for a conversation yet. I will let you know when I am." Her response was, "Immediate, Mom, please. I need to explain. Can we just talk for 5 minutes?" I did not respond. Setting boundaries was still new to me, still uncomfortable. But I was learning that discomfort was part of growth. Instead of engaging with Cassandra, I focused on rebuilding my life. I joined a hiking group that met weekly for local trails. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during years of prioritizing Cassandra's needs. I enrolled in a photography class inspired by my canyon pictures. At my next therapy session, Dr. Levine introduced me to a support group for parents experiencing estrangement or difficult relationships with adult children. "You are not alone in this," she assured me. "Many parents struggle with similar dynamics." The group met monthly in a community center downtown. At my first meeting, I listened more than I spoke, absorbing the stories of others who had experienced variations of my pain. Parents whose children demanded financial support while offering emotional cruelty in return. Parents who had been excluded from weddings, births, graduations. Parents trying to find the balance between love and self-preservation. By the third meeting, I was sharing more openly. The hardest part, I told the group, is accepting that the relationship I wanted with my daughter may never exist. that no matter how much I gave it, was never going to create the bond I hoped for. Heads nodded around the circle. One father spoke up, "I had to learn that my son's behavior was not a reflection of my worth as a parent. His choices were his own." That simple statement struck me deeply. Cassandra's choice to exclude me from her wedding was not necessarily an indictment of my mothering. It was her choice, shaped by her values, her priorities, her perspective. This realization did not erase the pain, but it helped me carry it differently, less as a personal failure, more as a sad reality to be acknowledged and moved beyond. 1 month after my return from the Grand Canyon, Cassandra sent an email that was different from her previous communications. No demands, no accusations, just a simple acknowledgement. "Mom, I have been thinking a lot about what happened with the wedding. I realize now that my email to you was cruel and unnecessary. I convinced myself that excluding you was about having a stress-free day, but the truth is more complicated. I think I have taken you for granted for a long time, expecting you to give without limits, and never asking what you needed in return. I cannot undo what I did, but I want you to know I recognize it was wrong. If and when you are ready to talk, I would like to try to make things right. Love, Cassandra." It was not a perfect apology. It did not address the financial aspect of the situation or the lies she had told others about my absence. But it was a start, a small recognition of the imbalance that had defined our relationship for too long. I did not respond immediately. I took the email to my next therapy session and discussed it with Dr. Levine. "What do you think this means for your relationship going forward?" she asked. "I do not know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to believe she can change, that we can build something healthier. Another part remembers 3 decades of patterns that will be difficult to break. Those patterns can only change if both of you are willing to do the work," Dr. Levine said, "and if you both recognize them in the first place." I thought about this for several days before composing my response to Cassandra. "Thank you for your email," I wrote. "I appreciate your acknowledgement of what happened. I am still working through my feelings and am not ready for a full conversation yet. I need time and space to heal. I hope you can respect that." Her reply was a single line I understand. "Take all the time you need." It was the first time in memory that Cassandra had accepted a boundary without pushing against it. A small thing, perhaps, but significant. As summer turned to fall, I continued building my new life. I went on a weekend trip to Michigan with my hiking group. I redecorated my living room, something I had wanted to do for years but had never prioritized. I started volunteering at a literacy program, teaching adults to read. Each of these activities reinforced my sense of self beyond motherhood. I was Almira, the hiker, Almira, the photographer, Almira, the teacher. My identity was expanding, becoming richer and more multifaceted. In October, 6 months after the wedding email, I finally agreed to meet Cassandra for lunch when she was in Chicago for work. We met at a neutral location, a cafe downtown rather than at my home where old patterns might more easily reassert themselves. The conversation was awkward at first, both of us careful, uncertain of the new boundaries. But as we talked, something shifted. For perhaps the first time we spoke as two adults rather than as mother and dependent child. "I spent a lot of time reflecting after the wedding," Cassandra said. "James and his parents helped me see how my treatment of you looked from the outside. It was not pretty." "And how did it look to you?" I asked. "Not just with the wedding, but our relationship in general." She considered this for a moment. "Like I had been taking advantage of your love," she said finally. "Like I had been using you as a safety net, without giving much in return." It was a more insightful response than I had expected. "That feels accurate," I said quietly. "I want to do better," she said. "I do not know exactly how, but I want to try." I did not make any grand promises or declarations of forgiveness during that lunch. The breach had been too significant, the patterns too entrenched for immediate resolution. But I left open the possibility of a new kind of relationship, one built on more equal footing. As I write this a year later, Cassandra and I are still finding our way. We talk monthly text occasionally. Our conversations are more honest, less transactional. She has not asked for money since the wedding. I have become more comfortable expressing my own needs and boundaries. It is not the close mother-daughter bond I once imagined, but it is healthier than what we had before. We are both more authentic, more truthful about who we are and what we can offer each other. The experience taught me that true love includes respect, that sometimes the greatest act of love, both for yourself and for others, is establishing boundaries that honor your worth. That age does not prevent growth, change, or new beginnings. Most importantly, I learned that while I will always be Cassandra's mother, that role does not define the entirety of who I am. There is so much more to me, so many aspects of my identity to explore and celebrate. If you are facing a similar situation with a child, a friend, a partner, remember this: your value is not determined by how others treat you. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, complete. Sometimes the people closest to us are the last to recognize this truth. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? How did you find the courage to prioritize your own well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might need to hear that it is never too late to reclaim your power and your peace. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the strength to honor your own worth in all your relationships.